relationships for CEA, Jeff Joseph.
Good morning. Actually, good afternoon. The International CES is more than the world's largest technology trade show. It truly is the global stage for innovation. Here at CES, the world's most celebrated brands launch iconic products. As you walk the CES show floor, you'll see exciting innovations as CES exhibitors unveil more than 20,000 products here this week. Many will come from some of the world's most popular brands. Many will come from companies that have no brand identity yet. The Brand Matters Keynote brings together executives to discuss how technology and digital platforms are impacting marketing and brand strategy on a global scale. Some say impacting, some say revolutionizing, some say disrupting, and others would use less kind words. Today, we bring you an impressive panel of executives who represent some of the world's top brands. They're here to discuss marketing in the cloud. Leading the conversation is Michael Kassan, an internationally recognized business strategist. Michael is the founder of MediaLink, an advisory firm that provides counsel to clients in the marketing, media, and entertainment industries. Based in Los Angeles and New York City, MediaLink provides strategic direction for marketing, brand development, and business strategy for many of Fortune 100's biggest global brands. Michael will introduce today's distinguished panelists to you. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Michael Kassan.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning. As we talk about marketing in the cloud, we couldn't have picked a better venue for today's conversation than CES, which for decades has showcased cutting-edge consumer electronics. And unlike everything else that happens in Vegas, what happens at CES actually doesn't stay here. It goes everywhere, thanks to the cloud. For many years, the gadgets that wowed were the most powerful, the most feature-laden, the more gigabytes, the better. But with the advent of the cloud, devices need only an internet connection. As you know, your phone is no longer a mini hard drive. It's a portal to limitless storage and software housed in the ether. This presents an unprecedented opportunity for marketers. Never before have audiences been so readily accessible at scale. Power isn't local, it's interconnected. Through tiny portals in every pocket, consumers are anything but passive. More than half the smartphone owners in the US use their devices to go online. The rest still use their smartphones the old-fashioned way, to drunk dial ex-girlfriends and play Angry Birds at work. Social media usage on mobile devices increased 63% in 2012. In fact, this Thanksgiving, Instagram users were posting over 200 photos every second. For all I know, 15 people in the audience have already Snapchatted me. The world is highly mobile, unmoored to any server and to any service. Products can be adopted and discarded with a single tap. Users are consuming, sharing, and producing an unprecedented amount of content on a diverse and growing number of platforms. Gangnam Style was watched by over a billion times on everything from a smartphone to a tablet to a PC. Cloud-based consumption means that users can be anywhere, anytime. As such, marketing must follow suit in order to locate and influence an untethered audience. Effective marketing begins, as always, with an insight. But with this much data available, separating signal from noise is clearly more difficult. However, with the power of the cloud, we as marketers can optimize both our campaigns and our organizations. From social listening to lead generation to data consolidation, the cloud enables marketers to understand and influence sentiment across communities and channels. With the cloud, the IT departments, like the media departments of old, have moved out of the back office. It means a shifting definition of how we engage consumers. Advertising between the lines on commercial breaks or in the margin on newsprint is surely shrinking. Whether it's paid or earned from search or from social, the bar today is significantly higher. The question we ask is always, is your message today strong enough that consumers will want to share it? Social marketing is as much about creation as it is about distribution. The cloud, like the rest of digital, is not a strategy any longer. It is a tool. Those organizations that know best how to utilize their capabilities and the cloud's capabilities will win the respect, loyalty, and business of their customers. Ironically, thanks to the cloud, the sun shines ever brighter on marketing. As the old saying goes, pioneers generally get the arrows and settlers get the land. It is my pleasure to introduce a true pioneer of the cloud, who took some arrows undoubtedly along the way, but also got the land. Mark Benioff, the founder, chairman, and CEO of Salesforce.com. Mark founded Salesforce in 1999 with a goal of ushering in the end of software by transforming how organizations manage their information, and has been innovating on business models, technology, and the notion of corporate and social personal responsibility ever since. The awards speak for themselves. Salesforce.com has received a Wall Street Journal Technology Innovation Award, been lauded as one of Businessweek's top 100 most innovative companies, and was named the world's most innovative company according to Forbes magazine 2 years in a row. Mark himself is the recipient of many awards, including being named a Fortune Business Person of the Year in 2012, and a recent innovation award from The Economist for his leadership in cloud computing. It is my distinct pleasure to bring to the stage the man behind the cloud, Mr. Mark Benioff. Thank you and welcome, Mark. So Mark, when we were chatting the other day, you mentioned that this is your first trip to CES since you were a teenager.
That's right. When I was in high school, I was a software programmer. We were building video games. But when I got to CES, they would not let me in. You have to be 18 to get in, unfortunately.
Well, that was the adult video show. That wasn't CES.
That's why most 17-year-olds come, actually, to CES.
Have you had a chance to walk the floor yet?
I did it yesterday, and it was awesome. I mean, you see what you're talking about, but in action, where every product is connected, and it's connected in a way that we really could not anticipate before. We thought every device was going to be its own self-contained user interface. I mean, you see how the touch revolution, the mobile revolution, has taken over everything, when in the Canon booth I'm watching with the new Canon 6D, which is an awesome camera, but you're controlling it through your iPhone. You're controlling your washing machine and your dishwasher through your Android device in the Samsung booth. That was awesome. And it went and on and on and on and on, where everything is connected, and it's not an island, that fundamentally they realize correctly that you have to be integrated, you have to come together, you have to connect into the cloud and be part of the ecosystem. That these are things that have changed and are dramatically changing our industry. It's awesome. So
Mark, yesterday we had a chance to chat when you were talking about your new definition, if you will, around the customer company and how you articulated that. And if I might, I'd like to read the eight words you used, because
Sure.
it resonated with me, and I think it will with the audience. You talked about the 8 key items that a customer company needs to focus on. It was social, it was touch, it was local, it was analysis, it was identity, it was ecosystems, it was communities, and not the least of which was the cloud as the 8th item. Feel free to riff on any pieces of those, but
yeah. Well, I'll tell you why that is. Our industry has transformed. It's not transforming, it has transformed. And how many people here in this audience are on Facebook or Twitter actively? Raise your hand. You don't have to. Everybody is, right? How many people here have bought software from an app store, an Android or Apple or their iPhone? Everybody, And you go through each one of those lists, and each person in this audience could do a presentation on those things. They can tell you how social has transformed their life, how mobile has transformed their life, how local, checking in, and having local intelligence has changed. But you add up all these 8 things together, the 8 things that you went through, it has shaken our industry to the core. So much so that yesterday, the keynote is not Microsoft or Intel, It's another vendor saying, the industry is searching for relevancy again. Who is the leader of all of this? Who has created all of this? What has happened to our industry? And the power, which you articulated, I think, really well in your keynote, is And we do these conferences all over the world, as you know, and I always ask people at the end of my keynotes, I go, why were you here, whatever. Yes, they come here for their company, and their company has paid them to come here, and they're here to learn, and they want to see the new technology. But they are there for themselves. They are there because they have to transform, they have to change, they have to evolve, and that is what's going on in our industry. We are all moving forward, and we're shaking loose our PC past, and a lot of us came into through our adolescence in the PC and the LAN, the WAN, the server. Maybe some of us started on the 3270 terminals and the SNA and the mainframes and all that. But those people aren't coming to the shows anymore, okay? They're somewhere else. And now the client server generation is here going, oh shit, look at this. What's going on? Because it's about touch-based devices. Every single thing on the floor is touch. It's about high-speed wireless that's LTE, and it's about the cloud. And then it's about these 8 things that you go through. And when you look at those things, those attributes of transformation, then you go, okay, now what does that mean for me as a company, as an individual, as a company? So when we talk to our customers, and we were met yesterday with some customers, you were in a meeting with a large customer of ours, and the customer is there. It's great company, credible CPG company for the whole world. And you're talking to that customer, okay, it's not a question, is your consumer connected? Yes. Is your employee connected? Yes. Is your partner connected? Yes. But you, the company, are you connected? Is your product connected? And for many companies, they're not. They have not yet made the change, and I'll tell you why that is. It's because this is a technology show. This is a technology show. You walk through those halls, it is awesome. Health technology, consumer technology, automotive technology, but it is not an information technology show. And so when you have somebody like me here, okay, this is not my industry per se, I'm in the enterprise software industry. What am I doing here? I don't even know. But I'll tell you what I think is going on. I don't.
There you go.
Call me, I'll come.
Just happen to be in the neighborhood.
But there is something going on like this, It's a convergence of industries. And that's why you can't be connected to your customer without an enterprise software company to help you to manage that information, that relationship, because you're connected all the time. So, it's kind of funny. I'll tell you a story. Akio Toyoda is the CEO of Toyota. He came to see me. Incredible, of course, unbelievable company, great executive. He says, all right, what is the future of Toyota? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm just now trying to figure out what the future of my own company is. How do I know what the future of a car company in Japan is? So I thought about it, and I said, well, let me tell you how I think about things. You got 2 billion people on Facebook, okay? Then let me say this. You have a Toyota Corolla. You have a Toyota Tacoma. Why is your next car not called the Toyota Friend? Why is it not a collaborative car? Why is it not connected to the dealer and to the factory? Why is it not connected to other drivers? And why are those 8 attributes that you just went through, why are they not an essential part of the car? Why is the computer in the car itself? I already have a computer with me with all my music and everything. Why is the car just not an app? And why is it when I just dock my iPhone, you see it already, why is it that can't be the computer for the car? It's more powerful than the computer that you have already. And that idea that the car is my friend, that is a transformational idea for us in the software industry, because the software that we have to write, the dealer management systems, the customer service systems, the sales systems, the marketing systems, they need to be integrated with the car. You have to connect with your customer in a whole new way. You have to connect with your customer, your employees. Your employees, when they're coming to the office, they don't want your hacked Windows PC with your encryption stuff on there, this dog, a dog PC. They want their Samsung 3G or Note 2 or iPhone 5, Got to connect your employee. And you want to know what else? You got to connect your partners. All those dealers and distributors, the car dealer, whatever, service, parts, all that has to be connected. The drivers, And then the product. Is your product connected? And I think for a lot of companies, this is what they're thinking about. They're thinking about, okay, and it's a checklist. Am I doing these things? Now, okay, I've got these people doing social media stalking or whatever, so somebody mentions my brand, blah, 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 Toyota, then I have like two guys who are like, they're, you know, and they're like, oh, yeah, we love you too, you know? But have you know that experience?
I have had that experience.
You call the call center and it's like, hello, you know, where are you guys anyway? We can't tell you. And we're not connected to anybody else. Isn't that cool? And it's like, no, it's not cool. It's 2012. No, now it's 2013. Jeez. We're in a new world. So we have to like move forward. And that's where I think companies are having that revelation. And when you come to a show like this and you walk the floor like I did yesterday, you see it in real time that everything is connected, and that when you have a product like that and your dishwasher is connected and it's a problem, somebody better be calling me or emailing me saying, you know what, we noticed that such and such is blocked, clogged, this, that, proactively emailing me. It's going to set a new stage, and that's going to be the brand. So if I'm buying the new connected Samsung dishwasher or the LG stove, and it's connected and it's part of my smart home, okay, and something's not right, and there's sensors in there, I just don't want to be able to then all of a sudden try to go to my iPhone and then I should have a relation. It should be a circle of love, you know, with that vendor, and because now this is the brand. And what you don't want at that point is saying, me getting on Twitter going, that Samsung thing, saw it at CES, 2013, bought it, doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh yeah, the thing blocked, they called me, they emailed me, they Facebooked me, they Twittered me, whatever, they did, created a case, it got escalated, it didn't get resolved, it did get resolved, the product manager called me, a new product arrived on my doorstep today, I didn't do that. That is marketing. Because then what you're going to do is you're going to get on that friend, 5,000, I have too many friends on Facebook, too many people on Twitter, and you're going to say, oh, I love Samsung, I love Toyota, I love General Electric, I love Facebook, I love this, I love that, and that is the new marketing. And marketing, and you don't want the other side of it. We've seen that happen with a lot of companies this year who are not ready for that. And look at them, what happens? Their equity gets impacted, their management team gets impacted, and it becomes an Arab Spring for a corporation, and you don't want that.
So when you talk about that, Mark, and it's an interesting point in terms of you feeling almost fish out of water at CES in terms of what your primary focus is. And I think at the beginning, that was the question that people were asking the marketers. Why, and again, all the brands that are
That's
here
right.
are marketers, but I'm talking about some of the folks that are going to join us later, the consumer packaged goods and the financial services and the telecoms.
They're all in the same boat. I don't care who it is. You've got a great panel next. Each and every one of those companies, I don't care if it was Unilever or Amex or AT&T, okay? You can ask them 4 questions. First of all, are you truly focused as a customer?
I wish I knew you were going to do this. I wouldn't have to prepare. This is
well,
good.
I'm just setting you up for the panel.
This is good.
But, you know, how are you connecting with your customers differently? With each one of those companies, probably everyone in this room is a customer.
Absolutely.
We've all had the experiences. We don't have to go through it, nor do the CMOs want us to. But they all know they need to transform. So how are you connected with your customer? How are you connected with your partners? How are you connected now with your employees? Email? Is that what you're doing? Intranet? Is that what you're doing? No. Those days are over. And what about your products? How are you connected with them? One of the most interesting projects that I worked on this year was with Coca-Cola.
And Joe will be joining us on the stage.
And it's, everybody knows it's an unbelievable company, and they have a huge goal to double the company in 10 years. So they went to Dean Kamen, the guy who made the scooter, and they said, build us the new Coke machine. So obviously, Dean Kamen's designing it. Cans are not coming out the bottom. So he has this thing where you can create 1,000 different types of Coca-Cola. It's called Coca-Cola Freestyle. And you can say, I want Coke, but I want Coke with Fanta, Coke with this, add grapefruit, lemon, and then, so when we saw the machine a year ago, we said, we kind of apply our model to it, and we added those 8 attributes to it. And we said, well, let me ask you a question. How does it integrate with your Facebook page? You're the #1 Facebook brand on Facebook, 50 million. How's that connected? And when I have my Coke and I like this, does it show up there and can I share it with my friend? You know, and do you build me a QR code and does it show up on my device? And how is sharing and how is that part of it? It's not just a great experience at the machine, not just about the machine, it's about the community. It's about the collaboration. It's about that next generation of the brand. And that is what is so exciting. And so when you have a connected product like this freestyle machine or Toyota Friend, or even if you have we do a lot of work with GE, and Beth Comstock is here, the chief marketing officer. Is your aircraft engine your friend? A kind of a ridiculous thought. And I did get 40 GE presidents basically thinking I was completely crazy, which I am. But here's the thing. Then they actually did it. They put the aircraft engine on the social network. And when it had a mechanical problem on the JL plane that was in Beijing and the Gen X engine had a problem, I don't have to go through the details, it created a service event. And the GE engineer is collaborating with the JL engineer and creating a community and escalations, bringing in product managers, parts people, everybody together as one set of collaborative capabilities around that product and around that event. And that is, by the way, the core of GE's profit, customer service. It's not in manufacturing. Manufacturing is a commodity. But customer service is the future and profitability of every major corporation.
So Mark, I've heard you speak about social revolution, and while I think it applies well to the business conversation, you've also taken the social revolution in terms of your community involvement. And again, words that were in your top 8 words, community, but you've looked at community in a different way and been, the first time we met was at the UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital wing. You've certainly made a significant contribution, both of your time and your resources to that. And I know at the start of Salesforce, that was one of the mandates, that a certain percentage of the revenue and profits are directed. So that's a social a revolution of a different sort.
Well, this is how I look at that, which is I'm not a do-gooder. That's not what I'm all about. I'm more about models, okay? And I love models, like this new technology model. And I was at Oracle for 13 years. Now Salesforce is 13 years old, so it's about the same. And towards the end of my Salesforce career, I was hugely impacted by an event I went to, the President Summit for America's Future, which was led by Colin Powell and by Ray Chambers. And they said, look, if you're a corporation and you have all these assets, and I'm thinking, assets, do you mean money? They mean no, they're relationships, products, conferences. If you have all these assets, how are you deploying them to make the world better? It's not in my business school. I went to USC Business School. It's a great business school, but they didn't teach that. They taught I went to entrepreneurship, Dick Buzzkirk, and his thing was, hey, I'm going to teach you how to, start, run, and sell a business. That was his shtick. But it wasn't about integrate the community. I think integrating the community into a modern company is critical and seminal, and that you have to do it at a fundamental basis. And then when I started Salesforce, we took 1% of the equity, 1% of the profit, 1% of all the employees' time, put it into a 501c3 public charity. Now, as Salesforce has grown, we give our product for free. Like I met the lady who runs the ad council last night at your party, and she gets our services for free. And we have 100 employees dedicated in our 501c3, created through the model. And we run over 10,000 nonprofits for free. So that, of course, nonprofits have to do all the same things that we're pitching today for profits to do, but they do it with us, no charge. And I have to tell you one thing that's amazing. You want to feel great every day? You want to be great? You want to have that energy every day? You want that grace that comes up inside you every day? There's no drug that you're going to take that is going to make you feel better than philanthropy. Philanthropy is the best drug that you can take every single day. Nothing will make you feel better. So let me give you that advice.
That's quotable. That's great. That's great. Mark, in the last year or so, you've made some interesting acquisitions, which were one of, it serves as a basis for this conversation, really, with, more focus on marketing from my perspective, looking at Salesforce, with Buddy Media and Radiant 6. big statements in the marketplace, leaders in their respective industries, and now part of Salesforce. The strategy behind that and how it's playing out in practice. If you could talk about that a bit, it would be great.
Well, we've spent $1 billion buying a couple of great marketing companies over the last year. One is Radian 6, run by Marcel Lebrun, an incredible executive based in Halifax. And for those of you who are interested in moving to Halifax, we have some great positions available there in the Marketing Cloud. And we also bought a great company run by Michael Lazaro, Buddy Media, based in New York City, where you're from. And why did we do that? I'll tell you why. We're very into the new UI, social's the new UI. I run my whole company on my iPhone. I don't even use my laptop. So we're all about the new UI and what that means. And obviously, our bread and butter is, hey, what have you closed lately? You know, we run hundreds of thousands of sales organizations.
I knew I liked you when I met you.
Yeah, well, you know what? Every single one of us in this room is a salesperson, whether we want to be or not. And when we start companies and we get our companies going, we better make sure we're closing our deals because, by the way, that's as important part of the brand as marketing. It's all part of marketing. Service, then we got into customer service. So we're in sales, then we're in customer service because the call center, the contact center, how you're integrated on the social media. And by the way, it's back into sales because that sales executive calling an unhappy customer didn't know because the sales is an island and service is an island. Those days are over. So integrated sales and service, we built a application development platform. We enhanced it with something called Heroku, okay, which is this kind of multi-language, multi-tenant system. You can build any app. It doesn't matter if you're a Ruby developer, a Java developer. So we have this platform. It's got sales. It's got service on it. Then all of a sudden, the things that you're talking about, we're like, we better get into marketing because you better have a listening campaign. You better have an ad campaign. You better have a social media campaign. Not just a case, not just an opportunity, not just a contact. And so we manage objects of data for our customers, and we help them create custom objects of data. Also, we needed to add more objects into our repertoire, and our customers want that as one integrated platform, a sales, service, marketing platform. That's who we are at Salesforce. That's what we do. And that platform better do one thing, and that is connect with your customers in a whole new way. And if you can put those two things together, that should be, you know, a great business for us. Last quarter, we grew 35%, 37% on a constant currency basis. We are the first enterprise cloud computing company to kind of exceed the $3 billion revenue run rate. We're absolutely going to be the first one to exceed the $4 billion annual revenue run rate. And we're focused in this area. And we want to work with everybody here. We want to work with the community. We want to work with everybody and change and transform the industry. That's what we're all about, and we're so excited to be here.
Well, Mark, let me ask you another question because it really sort of permeates everything you've been talking about in terms of communication. You've talked about this revolution being built upon trust. And again, you know, a base consideration for all of us. And I think there was a period of time where large brands weren't trusted by consumers for whatever reason, whether it was just the marketplace or some of the things that happen in large corporations and scandals and this and that. And trust was lost in a lot of the large corporations. And I think today that trust is coming back. And I think from my perspective, and I'd certainly more importantly to your perspective, that trust has come through that feedback loop, through that communication, through that conversation that you're talking about. And I think more companies are at least trying to get on that bandwagon. So,
Michael, it's like this. If trust is not your number one value as a brand, as an individual in this economy, it's over. You know, we're in the cloud. You know, our customers have to trust us to do business with us. Trust and trusted customer success has to be our highest value. And what we say better happen. It better be about truth. And I think that for the companies that you're about to come up here too, that as all companies become cloud companies and become connected companies in the connected world, trust is the number one value. There's a great writer in this area, Dov Seidman. I don't know if you've met him. He's in New York.
I know him well.
And he's an incredible person. He says this: it is not why you're connecting. That's irrelevant. It's not about when you're connecting. That is also irrelevant. But it's how you are connecting with the customer. And if you are not connecting with trust, on that social media, in that call center, in the contact center, in the product, across the board, then you are not going to be competitive in today's world. So make trust your number one value. Our second value in our company is growth. You better grow and deliver, what you're saying, and innovate. We've been broadly, recognized for innovation. These are three, I think, of the core values. Maybe there are different priorities for different companies, but I think these three core values are going to be very important for all companies, for all brands going forward.
So when you talk about innovation, and again, you've won many of those accolades for innovation, the word disruption comes in as well. How do you look at those two words between innovation and disruption,
sure, right.
and the connection?
Well, just look at this year's CES from last year's CES for the previous year's CES, and where Steve Ballmer is running on the stage yesterday and running off. He's not on stage the whole time. That's disruption. Our industry is this. It is a continuum. Technology is a continuum. In IT, where I come from, is a continuum, and consumer electronics. Look, at the end of the day, almost all the products that are in that big convention hall in 10 years are going to be in a big landfill somewhere. Okay? Why is that? Nobody here has the phone that they have with them 5 years ago, and certainly not 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Why is that? Because technology is a continuum. It's constantly getting lower cost and easier to use. So, if technology is a continuum, and it's constantly getting lower cost and easier to use, if you're showing up next year's CS with the product that you had this year, you're in trouble, because that's not the industry we're in. We're all in this industry because we love disruption. The reason that we love disruption is it is the heart of what we do. Gordon Moore is a friend of mine. I've had an opportunity to have dinner a couple times with. Moore's Law is inherently disruptive. What he does is inherently disruptive, but technology itself at its core is inherently disruptive. And why we all love this industry, why we love it, is because of its constant and never-ending change. It's what we live on. It's what we thirst. It's the excitement. That's what gives us the adrenaline. Some people have a job and they have to get changed by going to do something else, jump out of an airplane, go kiteboarding, whatever they're going to do. Okay, we get it through this, through this work. That's because this industry is so riveting, and once you get in it, it's addictive because it's so exciting. Because who knows what's coming next year at CES? You can't really predict it. Who knows what's coming in 5 years? It's really hard to predict. And last year, the greatest prophet of our industry, Steve Jobs, passed away. He was pretty good. He not only predicted it, he created it. But none of us are a Steve Jobs. None of us are in that category. We've had a history of great prophets in our industry. Thomas Watson Jr., Ken Olsen, even Bill Gates, Larry Ellison, Sergey Brin, Larry Page. Now, Steve Jobs, with mobile, certainly. And today we're very blessed to have Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey showing us kind of these social paradigms, and others as well. But, for the normal people like us, and the mortals in the audience, we're just observers of this incredible phenomenon of this industry, of this technology industry, and it, at its heart, at its core, is transformational, and that's what's so awesome about it, and that's why I love it. That's why I love coming to shows like this, and I get excited when I see, the advancements, and I get excited also when I see, customers that we're working with transform as well. That makes me, really excited.
Well, that's a great segue. Mark, I want to thank you for taking the time and for your energy.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Thank you. What I'd like to do now is ask our panelists to join us. We have the great pleasure this morning of AT&T's Michael Bowling, the CMO of Business Services, American Express's Josh Silverman, President of the U.S. Consumer Services, Coca-Cola's Joe Tripodi, Executive Vice President, Chief Marketing and Commercial Officer, and Unilever's Keith Weed, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer. Please join us, gentlemen.
Get my plug in.
Got to do it.
I'll drink it for you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Wow.
We're just going to riff. That's it. I can't do anything. Guys, thank you for joining us. So I want to start off by saying, for an industry that historically people may think we have our heads somewhere else, today I want you to have your heads in the clouds. Okay, so just start with that. Keith, I want to start with you, since I think you traveled the furthest to get here. So from that perspective, I'd like to kick off with you. You heard Mark talk about some of the things he was thinking, and the 8 tenets, and we actually chatted about some of that the other day. Unilever is a wildly diverse organization, and I love to quote this, but between you and Joe, I think it's fair to say, 3 billion, 4 billion people a day touch the products that the two of you represent. Does Mark's point about social and mobile, how does that resonate with you from the perspective of Unilever and how you're putting it into practice?
Yeah, I think for us very clearly, the cloud is the important part that makes all that possible. So people don't walk around with a television in their back pocket, but they do walk around with a mobile. And with the cloud that enables devices to connect up, I think it does put the mobile very much in the center of a consumer's life. And it's never more than a meter away. So for a marketer, this is fantastic. And while it was separate devices and not talking to each other, it was never going to take that central role. But now it will. So I think the first thing is the consumer journey is completely enabled by the cloud, and mobile will be bigger and bigger for us. But not just that, also for our company. I mean, the cloud's very important for our company. We have all our websites on the cloud. We've just actually been meeting with Amazon, who host all our websites in the cloud. And in fact, Mark did allude to a CPG company he was talking to yesterday, and in fact, it was us that was with him. On one side, we do some work, for instance, we have Chatter to get our marketers to talk with each other around the world. But
internally?
Internally, yeah. But then on the other, yes, it's like sort of an internal Facebook, I suppose, would be one way of looking at it. But also, when he was talking about the opportunity, he was also berating us about some of the things we've still got to do. So there's a lot of opportunity, but again, it'll be enabled by what the cloud can do.
So, Joe, when you've come to CES now in force for the second or third time, and similarly with Keith and the Unilever teams that have been here a few years now, both of you have your chief technology officers, Ed Steineke, Mark Buchanan. I mean, people that normally would be here and you wouldn't be, and they're very much a part of the team that you bring as well as marketers. And I talked about it in the opening, but that integration between the CIO, CTO/CMO is more than ever. I mean, you guys talk way more, I'm guessing, than you've ever done in your career to speak to the technology side.
Yeah, I really don't like speaking to him, but I do. Actually, he's a wonderful guy.
Ed may be out in the audience. So.
No, I think that's if we're going to engage in the level of consumer engagement that we want, if we're not partnering with the technology people, then we're never going to make it. So that's where the world is going. So there's nothing that Mark has presented here today or talked about, and I should let Mark answer all questions on behalf of the Coca-Cola company, because that's a great endorsement. But I would say that without question, there are many parts of the cloud that are extremely exciting. But there are many parts that are also daunting and will require a lot of cultural change in companies and a lot of capability changing. Because just because you got a lot of data up there, data doesn't equal insight or knowledge. It's like crude oil. Crude oil isn't gasoline. It's got to be refined and worked. And I think one of the biggest challenges for companies is just building out the skill set in order to be able to harness all that data and then analyze that data and come in with meaningful knowledge and insight.
So Joe, Mark talked about Coca-Cola having the largest following, the largest
Yes.
fan base, 50 million or more today. But in candor, as I said earlier, 1.6 or 2 billion people a day, you've already had communication with that many people on a daily basis. But the 50 million, you have a more direct opportunity for communication. Are you using it? I mean, is that interaction happening?
I think that we've adopted kind of a fans-first philosophy on the 52 million on Facebook now. Less, salesy, more around the notion of organic development of their interest in our brand and our company. And so we're trying to, it's a fine line because, consumers are smart. They know when they're being oversold. And as a consequence, you've got to walk that fine line. But I think fundamentally, but in addition to the 52 million on Facebook, we've got, at least in North America, the largest consumer goods database. You know, we've got almost 20 million people in My Coke Rewards as a loyalty platform. Those are all different opportunities, portals into engaging with consumers. And I think the challenge is how you sift through all of it and have a coherent strategy in order to really realize that engagement.
I'm going to come back to that because what I do want to do is I want to flip over to Michael Bowling for a second, but I do want to understand how your partners, your creative partners, your media partners are finding that as another communication plan. I mean, it's got to play, but I'm going to come back to that, so I don't want to forget that. Michael, in your role at AT&T, you're looking at lots of things, and you spend a fair amount of time in the cloud. But
absolutely.
But you also focus on the local business, on the SMBs, on the small and medium-sized businesses in a good part of your job. Are you finding the local businesses as open to this and as you know, buying into the concept of the cloud, and how is it impacting the business that AT&T does with the local markets, which is certainly not unimportant?
We're obviously excited about how important the mobility network and the devices are becoming in the center of this transformation. And we are seeing some of the most exciting innovation actually in that small and medium enterprise. They don't have the legacy systems and environments that they have to work through. But even from the small businesses all the way up to the Fortune 1000, we're seeing a real embracing of what the cloud and all this data and information can do to help us go from effectively audiences, we've moved on to individuals. And I think that's one of the exciting pieces of innovation that are really going to change the way we go to market with our customers.
And is it in fact, I mean, is that data empowering you at this point?
It absolutely is. You know, being able to understand, you know, our interactions with our customers, and then also helping enable, you know, all of our other clients to effectively move their data into the cloud in a secure, reliable, effective way is really what we're all about.
So, Josh, it's fair to say that the credit card industry and American Express as a leader in that space probably did something way before we knew it was chic to do it. You put cash in the cloud. I mean, you put cash in the cloud and you put a credit card in your pocket and you access that cash. You know, I'm curious as to, did you look at it that way back, you know, the American Express company look at it that way back in the day, that they were really the first cloud players?
I'm sure we didn't, and I know that the term cloud probably wasn't around in the 1950s. But I'll tell you what we did think about was that this is really an opportunity to connect merchants with consumers who will love those merchants. And really from the earliest days, that's really what the business has been about, is about putting consumers and merchants together. And what attracted me to American Express and what I find so exciting about the payments industry right now is if you look at all of the innovation that's going on in online commerce, I think that the payment networks probably have the best rails to bring that kind of innovation into offline commerce. So really our focus is going from being a payments company to being a commerce company in an even more powerful way. And I think that a lot of these new tools really allow us to do that.
And Josh, your background wasn't necessarily marketing per se. You ran Skype before you came to American Express, so more of a technology bent. Are you seeing the American Express Corporation adopting this, you know, new technology in a real way, both in the way that you put your products, you know, in the hands of the consumers, and as well, the same question I'm going to ask Joe, your partners, your agencies, your advisors, are they looking at it in the same way and understanding how you need to communicate to your clients, to your customers, to your partners?
Yeah, I'm obviously a very non-traditional hire to go run the U.S. credit card business for American Express, and I think it does speak to the commitment that we as a company have around transformation. And I'd break it into two areas. I think that there's a set of opportunities that come from the cloud that are about how you engage with consumers. The number of opportunities to have a real dialogue with your customers is exploding. I'd also say that the responsibility then to use that carefully is very important. We as citizens are being bombarded every day with even more messages, and we think it's incredibly important that if we are going to tap someone on the shoulder and try to get their attention, however we do it, it's a message that they're going to want to hear, not something that we're going to want to tell them. I also think that the opportunity, and something I'm especially excited about around American Express, to build a community of our consumers who can work together to make their worlds a better place. I think is very important, and I think that the connected cloud does that. So there's a series of marketing channels that I think are very important, and frankly, any good marketing executive better be expert at how to use these marketing channels to communicate. More fundamental, I think, is how is your value proposition going to change at its core? Not how are you going to communicate that value proposition, but how are you actually going to change the product? So what I talk with the team about is what's the fundamental job that we do for people, and how could we do that in a better way? And to take an example I admire a lot, if you think about Nike. Nike sells tennis shoes. Nick could think about how to make your tennis shoe talk with other people's tennis shoes through the cloud, and I'm really not sure why the world wants that. But if you think about the job is to help me get fit, well, how can Fuel, a new product they've created, help me get fit? That's the fundamental job the customer is asking them to do, and they are using technology to invent that. I do think that there's a high degree of technical curiosity required on the part of marketers, along with a deep partnership with engineers, in order to invent the possible for how to do the jobs in new ways.
So Joe, that's a great transition because you and I have spoken before about your approach and your approach being your 70-20-10 approach. 70%, if I get it right, on the stuff that tried and true, 20% on the innovations relating to what you know, and 10% on the stuff that you're throwing shit against the wall and you don't know, but you got to try it.
Right.
Is that still the way you look at it? And this year versus, or 2012 versus 2010, let me say, is the 10% growing? Is it, how's it playing?
Yeah, I think that construct of 70-20-10, it's just, I think at a market level, everyone needs to know it could be 5, it could be 15. I think the thing is understanding the need at a business, all your businesses, to have the discipline to ring fence some innovation money and not be afraid to fail. So I think that 10% is, money that you're saying, listen, we're going to play with that. Now, the sin in life is if we do the same thing in 25 countries and don't share that information. So I think it's all tied, whether it's creative on the 70-20-10 model, media from a channel perspective on the 70-20-10, research in 70-20-10, all of those represent opportunities for the people in the company to feel I can take some risk as long as I share the learnings broadly. The ultimate is to be that learning organization where you reduce the cycle time of learning. So we're very, very committed to that. And I think it's only going to be a construct that we'll stay with for a very long time.
So I want to talk about what's living in the cloud, the data that's living in the cloud. And, I don't know that what I'm saying is accurate, but I'm going to take a shot anyway. The gentlemen on the left, Michael Bowling and Josh Silverman, probably have more data than anybody, AT&T and American Express. I mean, you guys have a lot of data, but they got the real stuff in terms of, and yet they don't always have the ability to use it.
Right.
For regulatory reasons, for privacy concerns, for all kinds of things that impact financial services and telecommunications. You guys have a little more freedom, I think, to use the data. And Keith, this is something you and I have talked about at great length, and when we had that first digital advisory conversation about who owns that data. Where, all this data that you've accumulated on the 2 billion people a day that touch a Unilever product, who owns it, A, and is it getting utilized in the way you plan and think about not only product development, but marketing?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's only as good as you can transform it into something. I mean, as Joe was saying, the difference between crude oil and gasoline is a big leap. So I would say that we've all got the same amount of data because at the end of the day, data is just generated by people doing stuff, yeah? And if people are doing 2 billion purchases a day of our products, that's doing stuff. Converting that into insight is the more, I think, the more important thing. And the reason why right now, this is an incredibly exciting time to be in marketing, incredibly exciting time to be in business, because things are changing so much and changing so rapidly. You just got to walk out on the floor and you can see the gadgets out there, but that is changing the way people behave, changing the way people interact with brands, the whole social space. And so understanding people and understanding how their lives are changing, how they want to engage with brands in a different way is what it's all about. And we have 600 market researchers around the world, and that's their day job. Their day job is to to give us insights, to understand how people are changing behavior, why they're changing behavior, how they want to interrelate with us. We've got 80 million fans across our brand base on Facebook. But what do they want to do? How do they want to engage with an Axe, a Dove, a Ben & Jerry's, a Magnum ice cream, a Lipton tea? People have different relationships with different brands, and that to me is when the data turns into magic. And we've got to unlock the magic in our brands, and it's an exciting time to do it.
So Michael, you could be accused of having lots of junk in your trunk. I mean, you've got a lot of data somewhere.
A lot of data.
It lives somewhere in the wonderful world of AT&T. That data, as Joe and Keith just said, can influence you as a marketer, but also the customers that you deal with and the clients that you deal with. How do you look at it as a marketer versus someone who's making that available to other marketers?
Well, looking at it from both perspectives, one of them as a marketer, thinking about how to turn that data and all that information into insight is critical, and really working hard to partner to get it right across the technology and the marketing community, because I really do think it takes both sides of that relationship to make it effective, so we don't just fall into the trap of having an incredible amount of data. And then for all of us, quite frankly, all the companies, the security around that data is paramount. We at AT&T have over 800 security professionals every day looking to make sure that our data is safe, our customers' data is safe, their networks and their connections are safe and secure. So I think that's a fundamental core of what we all need. But really, how do we take that data into insight, I think, is where the real power is.
Well, let me say this, Michael.
Please,
I just sort of add in, because it's very for everyone here to be seduced by the data and the insight and the knowledge. At the end of the day, marketing is, you got to go that emotional connection, because if what you deliver to the consumer, if it's highly targeted and addressable and it's right there, if it's not interesting for the consumer, it doesn't matter how precise your targeting was. And so that's what the cloud should help us do. But I think one of the greatest challenges is managing all this content and getting that right message to the right person. And otherwise we'll be obsessed by data. And actually, at the end of the day, our brands have to deliver an emotional connection to people.
And also content that's interesting. So
Yeah.
I think what's difficult is when you had the 30-second TV ad or the print ad, we'd all sweat away for 6 months, 9 months, and produce some, ta-da, here's the baby. But now, with an always-on world and this great thirst for content, the content's got to be good. And I've said it several times, but the idea that you want to be always on quality content, and that's a big challenge, because you can often get one but not the other. And then if you throw in cost effective as well, trying to get all three is really difficult. You need to choose 2 out of 3. And I think combined job is to get all 3. Cost effective, quality content that's always on, and that's a big challenge.
So there's an underlying theme to Brand Matters. And the underlying theme to Brand Matters was really, as I said earlier, to get the brands, conventional brands, financial services, telecom, AT&T obviously more connected to CES on one side of the house than the other, but from the marketing side, Coca-Cola, Unilever. The conversations you've been engaging with the technology creators, do you think they're listening? I mean, when we talk about the earlier conversation, to get in front of whether it's Samsung or LG or Microsoft or whoever it may be, are they listening to what you're saying when you're saying what your needs are as a marketer in the next tablet design or the next wireless device? Are they listening?
Well, go out on the floor. Go out on the floor and have a look at a Samsung fridge. I don't know about you, but my fridge at home has magnets with bits of paper and shopping lists written on. Go and have a look at the Samsung fridge, and you'll see Hellmann's mayonnaise on a little...
it's like the Coke can over there.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. I can do plugs as well.
Exactly.
Or in fact, go and look at the washing machine, the Samsung washing machine, and you'll find our washing powder brand on there. So I think it's already happening. And I think the idea of both, you've got the technology people here, but then we've got also all the big digital partners here, makes the CES a real big focus for saying, how is this world changing? Because it's joining up across devices, but it's joining up across industries as well. There's a blurring going on like we've never seen before.
Absolutely. Josh, were you going to say something? No. Oh, so well, why not?
Couldn't have said it better.
He said it for you. When you say the blurring of the industries, I think it's clear when you look at Mark Benioff who said, again, he hasn't been here since he's a teenager, and the logical thing would have been, gee, of course he would be at CES. But when you look at it, he wouldn't historically be at CES, and yet here he is, and reimagining it with a different view. I'd ask the question back now to Joe in terms of your partners, your agencies, again, not critically, but just in good collaborative partnerships. Are they understanding how to market on these different platforms? Are they understanding how to give you the counsel advice you need as a marketer?
I think it's a journey, Michael, honestly. I think it's, when you look at only 1% of your spend is really going against mobile, which is the single device that consumers have adopted in world history. No one's seen that kind of adoption. It's, I think old habits die hard. And so I think sometimes you're pulling the agency with you and sometimes they're leading you. And it's difficult to say if there's not one particular approach, but we're constantly saying to our agencies, unless you're taking us to the edge of the abyss, make us uncomfortable, then we don't really need you, So I think a lot of this is changing the culture and the mindset, because agencies and the whole ecosystem of marketing, whether it's the media companies, the networks, et cetera, the advertising, it's a very comfortable system that's being chipped away. And I do think that dramatic change and transformational change is coming, and I think that there are a few that get ahead of it, and there'll be many that will be left behind.
So the two things I never leave the house without are my American Express card and my mobile phone. You're both always with me. Are you communicating to me, Josh, in the way you should be?
I think we have a lot of opportunity to be engaged in a much more regular dialogue with you. It should be up to you how often and in what way we talk with you. That's got to be your decision. But I think, again, our opportunity is to move from being the thing you use to pay and then to provide you a sense of trust after the purchase, to really getting a lot more involved in helping you know that there's a French restaurant that just opened down the street that's exactly like the kind of thing you're going to like. And by the way, for that merchant to know that Michael is the perfect new customer. Don't give 50% off to everybody in town, but Michael, you should really treat like a VIP.
Upcharge him.
He's a high-value customer, Josh.
So I think
I'm in serious trouble here.
Engaging in that kind of dialogue is going to mean we're going to need to be in more regular contact with you to the extent that we can deliver value to you.
And in terms of bringing the blurring that Keith talked about, so I don't leave home without you or Michael in my pocket, so to speak. Are you guys, again, industry-wise, not specific, although you could be specific, are you guys communicating? Because one of the ways you can communicate the message to me that you just talked about is via the device that I get from Michael.
Yeah, I think one of the most exciting things that are going on in our business is going from being the CMO of a technology company, typically working with a lot of CIOs, to being on panels with other CMOs. I'm increasingly finding that I'm spending time with the CMOs because they're going to direct the technology spend in the future. That Gartner study that said by 2017 the CMOs are going to specify more tech than the CIOs, there's a lot to be said in that. And I think that intersection of those two professions is really going to change the way we bring products and services to our customers.
Guys, I'm getting a signal that we're at the end of our time, but what I want to do is thank you all for spending the time and for being here today and for being at CES and for partaking in Brand Matters. And I want to thank all of you for spending the time listening to us today. Thank you.